guys, Boomslang here. I wanted to bring you a basic tanking build. You know, that's for the guy that's just gone through tier 3, he's finally hit tier 5, and is able to start doing, you know, tier 4.1, flat tier 4, 4.2, 4.3, etc. You know, you're just going into those tier 4 and tier 5 dungeons. So I'm just going over a build, and I'm just going to show you the basics of what it does. So I have calculated the chest, helm, boots, shield and the mace to cost 39k, and you can, if you can afford it, use the Incubus Mace instead, which costs 55k. So at the moment, if you're just including the essential kit, those 5 pieces there, it's 39k. Now, everybody should be able to afford that. Bag, it's whatever you can afford, want to use, etc. Cape, I've put this 80k cape on. It's a Bridgewatch cape, so it's quite pricey, so I've not included it in the overall cost. Horse is 20k, not included it in the overall cost because you could use whatever you have available. And then the food, it's like 200 or 300 per item. I think goat sandwich was like 342 each, and resist potions were like 95 each. So I've also not included those because you could be making them yourself, or you know, you could be using something different. But these, what I'm going to show you is what I recommend. So the bedrock mace, we have threatening smash. So you do a wind up on your swing, and you hit all enemies in front of you, dealing 379 physical damage and creating threat on all of the mobs hit. So that's your bread and butter for the first threat control, and there's more threat within the build, but I'll show you that soon. Interrupts a spell being cast, so it's nice against mage casters in the dungeon, good against anybody that's casting in PvP, a healer, a backline caster DPS. Depends on what you're going to do. This is probably more suited for dungeons, but obviously depending on the dungeon level you're going into, later on, you know, you could be getting ganked if you're traveling through any red zones, and if you're doing any red zone dungeons. I mean, this is aimed for tier 4 to 5, but you could go into tier 6 if you get like a 4.2, 4.3 armor set. It would just about be enough. Depends on if you had a good group. So I'm just saying that is there. Force of Nature cracks the earth open in a line in front of you, and it basically knocks mobs out the way if they get contacted by it. It's not quite as useful and probably wouldn't be used too much in a dungeon because you don't really want to displace your mobs. You want to keep them all stacked up if you've got AoE DPS. But if somebody, you know, didn't get a cooldown for an interrupt on some major damage that was coming your way, or your interrupt was on cooldown, you could use this to interrupt the enemy. And it's also classed as your taunt, so you could maybe consider using it at the beginning of the fight and then regroup them all together. So yeah, it's another taunt within your gear setup, so give it a shot, see what you think. And then every 5 normal attacks you stun your enemy. Pretty standard stuff. I'm not really going to go over the rest of the skills in here because you really would be aiming to go towards the Incubus Mace later on down the road. And I'll touch on this again in another video once I've leveled up myself and got more experienced. So basically you would need to level up to unlock all of the padlocked skills. Shouldn't take too long. The Guardian Helm, I've gone with reduced damage by 33%. That is obviously on a cooldown of 45 seconds, so it lasts for 7 seconds, so you know you've got to weigh it up. It's got to be a really drastic situation that you want to pop that. You do have emergency heal. You know, that is a 10% of max health. It removes damage over time effects on you and up to 4 allies in a 4 meter radius, so it is pretty good. It's one to consider. And then energy regain, I mean, you shouldn't really be struggling with energy, but you never know. I just don't think it's really got a place between these two. I would say that would probably be top and that would be next. It just depends on the situation. Incoming damage reduced by nearly 2.5%, or increased CC duration. You're not really going to want the CC duration. Hey guys, small technical difficulties, so back in a different dungeon now. Basically, small power outage, so couldn't really avoid that. So anyway, back to the video. The chest, you're going to want to take Taunt, mainly used for bosses. You know, if somebody's doing a lot of DPS or healing before you've actually generated any threat, it helps build that up. Well, not build it up, but take away the threat that the other person has attributed on the boss, and you know, you can taunt them. That's it, kind of thing. Now, Enfeeble Aura creates a 7-meter aura around you, and all enemies inside will do 60% less damage, and they'll also be slowed. So it is a contender. You could consider it, but I would say Taunt is probably the best one. Mend Wounds, you're not going to need that, you have a healer, so for me, I don't think it's required. Maybe you can find a use for it. Toughness, the other one is the CC control, so I would say take the nearly 5% toughness, which reduces damage incoming towards you. And Protective Instinct, increase threat generation by 300%. It's a given. You wouldn't use the reduce max health. You could, but you really want the threat generation from the chest piece, so for me it's the given skill to go with. Lastly, we have Guardian's Boots, very popular in most builds. So double your max health gets. So the Guardian Boots, you grow to a giant size. During the time, your max and current health are temporarily doubled, and your movement speeds increase by 25%. You're mainly getting it for the increased health pool in dodgy situations, kind of thing. And then reduce damage by 2.5%. Near enough. Now we've got the Adept Sarcophagus. There are other options, but for me, this is a pretty good one. You get the extra threat generation by 15%, 4.3% defense versus mobs and players, so you know it's just an all-round nice shield. I've decided to use this cape, but obviously it's not included in the price. These 5 items are 39k, which I've already said. So this cape is just something I wanted to put on, something I wanted to try. Creates the sandstorm, which slows the enemies and reduces their damage. So again, you're contributing towards less damage coming towards you. That's why I considered it. Bag, whatever bag you want, like I said. And then the minor resistance potion. It's just a cheap one, but it increases your defense by 33%. Crowd control resistance by 50 for 6 seconds. So if you're in a bit of a really bad situation, pop it. Goat Sandwich, increase your max health by 5% for 30 minutes. Again, very good. Now, Incubus Mace, you're going to want the Threatening Smash if you can afford the Incubus Mace, that is. Interrupt as well. The Shrinking Curse. So this is what is different from the Bedrock. So the Shrinking Curse, shrink the enemies in front of you in a cone, dealing the 246 magic damage, and then while shrunk, the damage and healing power is reduced by 40%, and the max and current hit points are reduced by 25%. So it's really, really effective at helping to take down mobs. You know, you're reducing their health pool and also the damage that they produce. So it's a really, really nice mace. It's used in most builds. And then obviously you've got snare charge, heavy slam, and air compressor. Air compressor is what you're aiming towards later on down the road. You know, this is what most people use. They compress the air around them, and it pulls the enemies into your central point. So it makes mobs clump up, which means that your AoE DPS can go to town, basically. So guys, let's pull a few mobs here, get the basic fundamentals down. You know, we'll pull maybe 3 mobs here. I've cut out, I tried a minute ago, I pulled like everything here and died, so you know, don't get too cocky. You do need healing, you know, you're not a god, you're not invincible. But you know, the basics are, that's your threat generator. W to interrupt if it was casting a spell. Saw the E in action there, it dispersed the mobs. You don't really want that, but if they're melee they're going to come back to you anyway. And then if you have too many mobs on you, you can always D and F. You've got your food buff on, and you can always pop a resistance potion to try and survive it if you know you're under a lot of damage and the healer's struggling. And then if a mob is attacking somebody else, you use your R. And basically you're just waiting for your Q to come off cooldown, interrupt the spells, Q for the threat gen, E if you need to move a mob away from you, you know you're taking too much damage, you need to displace all the mobs on you. Your whirlwind from the cape, if you've decided to go down that road, gives you the extra damage reduction, which was 50%, and it also slows, so it's, you know, it's really good, less damage on you. And that is the fundamentals of the basic build. I will, once I've killed these two, just put on the mace as well, show you what that extra ability does that you don't have access to on Bedrock. Keep in mind you could go even cheaper than the Bedrock and go with just the basic standard mace. You know, it's what you can afford. So we now have the E ability that shrinks, so you know that helps further reduce damage on yourself, and it, you know, it's just beneficial to the team. So you get it going. There you go. They shrunk. Extra damage reduction again from the cape if you have bought it. So if you don't pull too many mobs, if you keep it to like 3 or 4 mobs, your healer shouldn't really have any problems healing you. You should be clearing dungeons, getting the loot, and then saving up to be able to, 1, afford higher tier gear, 2, actually being able to afford the Incubus Mace if you haven't been able to afford it already. I've got other guides where, you know, I mention about doing high level random dungeons, or you know, get a guild group together, or some friends together from different guilds. If you've met other people, you'll make a lot more money doing it with maps than just doing random dungeons. And yeah, if you just keep clearing between tiers 4 and 6, you're less likely to get dungeon dived in a tier 6. I say that, you're probably actually more likely to get dungeon dived in a tier 6, as most people do tier 6s, but tier 4 and the 5 you can't get dungeon dived and lose your gear. So you know, at worst a group would be coming in just to sorry, I'm not concentrating on what I should be doing there. A group would come in and just try and steal your chest or something, or take over a dungeon and force you out. They wouldn't actually be able to kill you. So if you start doing tier 6 upward, bring a map, make sure that the zone that you're going to is clear around the dungeon entrance, so that you know that when you're about to go in, there's nobody that can actually visibly see you, because once you're inside, that dungeon then becomes visible to everyone else if they're walking past it. That's for the map dungeons. So just consider that, and yeah, give it a shot, guys. You know, if I had access to different skills, I could flick it on to the every attack heals me and probably get through this even easier. So give it a shot, guys. You know, it's a nice little tank build. Most people probably already use this or some version of it. And yeah, just let me know what you guys think. I should be able to bring you guys some news fairly soon about some potential sponsors, potential deals that are coming up. Speak to different companies. So obviously, I will only be making deals that benefit me, company, and you guys. I want to be able to offer things to you guys. I want to be able to get myself sponsored as well. And I also want to be able to benefit the company that does decide to sponsor me or work with me. So I'm working on that. I'm not going to give any more detail because obviously until it's finalised and everything's in place, I don't want to say anything and then something happens and it comes off the table. I do have something coming down to me, which once it's here, I'll spend a little bit of time seeing what it is, and then I'll be able to give you guys a little bit of intro to it and go over it, and in discussion for another something, and I'll see what I can do for you guys and the company and myself. So those are things to come. Keep in mind, something I didn't mention from the start of this video, I'm now in Warblood, part of the Oops Alliance, so I may be doing some GVG, ZVZ, and some ganking type videos. Obviously I need to get specific builds to do the GVG and ZVZ, so I won't just be running straight into those sorts of activities, but I will be working towards it and trying to become ready for that, contribute to the guild. We did have a really successful run last night with some of the Warblood members on a ganking run. I'm not going to go into details of where it was or what we did, but we made a nice amount of profit. It was really enjoyable. We worked together. A couple of us died here and there. All in all, though, it was a really good run, and it was really nice teamwork, and it was just really enjoyable. I was actually surprised at how fun it was. Normally I'm on the end of a single ganker or a group of gankers whilst I'm farming, and end up raging and getting quite annoyed that I've been ganked, but at the end of the day, people go into a black zone. You need to expect to be ganked at some point, or attacked by a group of people that are doing a dungeon and just thought, what the hell, I'll stop, I'll try and kill this guy. So just always be aware, if you're in a red zone or a black zone, you are under attack at some point. It will happen. It's not a case of if, it's a case of when. So just be prepared for that if you do go into the black zone or anything like that, but it's not too bad of a place. Also in the link in the description of the video is the giveaway that I'm currently still running, and also the Warblood Discord, so any players that have played for a bit of time now, getting quite experienced, you are welcome to join the Discord and see if you can join Warblood. There are some criteria to be met. I've had a really warm welcome. As soon as I had joined, I managed to get into that ganking party, amongst some other things. And yeah, I mean, the guys, they're all really welcoming. They all work as a team. They all try and contribute together to benefit the community and the alliance as well. I will cover some alliance stuff at some point within reason. Obviously, I can't reveal everything, because if I was to reveal certain things, tactics, plans, anything like that, then other alliances would end up seeing it. So I have to be diligent of what content I'm putting into a video when I'm doing alliance type videos where there's multiple guilds going together to face off against another alliance. but I plan to be bringing some content like that, if within reason and if I'm allowed to. It depends on what we're doing at the time. So yeah, there was just a couple of updates on the end there, and just the basic tanking video, and just I hope you guys utilize it, I hope you enjoy it, and yeah, I will catch you guys on the next one. Boom Slang out, have a good evening all, peace.